Welcome to the Unwashed Asses, episode 99, recorded Saturday. Got the day right today. March 30th, 2019. Hey, how are ya? I know we've been pretty tumultuous these past few days, and it's been a lot of me badgering you and sending weirdly cryptic messages on Twitter, and just constantly checking the stats page and seeing what's going on, and if you guys like me, and if this is gonna work out, and trying to clear the backlog and ease my guilty conscience that I haven't done anything. But here we are again. Here we are. I was wrong yesterday. It's not 2 shows today. It's just the one, because there was a total of 6 that I had to do, and so we're up to quota. So one more for Sunday, and then we're back on track. Yay! Oh man. So what else can we talk about? What's been new? What's been happening? And immediately I get cringy because I think of all the fuckers out there recording podcasts. Hey guys, what's going on? Let's see. I had a burrito. It was pretty good. No, we need to do something substantial. You need to do something that's worth your time. Because my time, fuck it. Who cares about my time? It's your time that, is the most valuable, precious thing, and that I'm trying to steal away from you at 15-minute intervals. So, I guess let's get into that then. I'm sitting currently in a parking lot while the little lady goes and does her triathlon at the gym. So, kudos to her for going out and, being healthy and doing things and achieving goals, while my fat ass with my man tits sits in the car in a parking lot and decides to talk into the ass end of his phone like he's holding a Pop-Tart for the next hour or so. Yeah. But rather than lament my lack of gumption and go out there and get itness and my desperate need for a bra, let's talk about the Umbrella Academy. I feel like I've been watching a lot of quote-unquote TV, been streaming a lot of the visual media and pouring it directly into my eyeballs. And I've not really done that in a while. It feels like I'm being weird and lazy and not doing a whole hell of a lot with my life when I sit around and watch TV. It's why I don't like to do it. That being said, I did just burn up 2.5 hours of my life watching all the in-game cinematics from Devil May Cry 5, so let that tell you something about how I decide to spend my free time. Which I guess, let's go on a little side jag about that. I loved Devil May Cry series, the first 2. Third one started to lose me. Fourth one, didn't really care for it at all. The reboot DMC, I just skipped entirely. And now 5 comes out, it's like, oh yeah, it's a return to form, but it's a return to form in that we're still shoehorning Nero in, and we have this new character V. It's like, fuckers, just let me play as Dante. I'll even settle for Trish and Lady. Give me some original characters, I guess original as in from the original trilogy. Even Lucia, what was it? Is that her name from the second game? Second game was my favorite, and everybody hated that one. I have a bad habit of picking losing horses. Maybe I just have bad taste. I don't know. So I saw the 5th one was coming out, and it's a return to form, and I was tempted, but it's like I have so much time that I have to spend in my existing games. I don't know that I need to spend the money on this, especially at $60 a pop, because I'm still on the fence about Resident Evil 2. But like, all right, well, let's the SMVR channel I talked about doing the Resident Evil runs, he started doing Devil May Cry. I'm like, all right, well, I'll watch a couple of these boss fights, and the way the guy does it's just pure poetry and motion, and it makes me feel like an absolute failure as a player, because Devil May Cry has always been difficult for me, and he's just, making it look so easy to parry and block everything and dodge and do his no-hit runs on bosses. But that led me to another channel that like, oh, here's all of the cinematics. So it was like watching a 2.5-hour Devil May Cry movie without actually having to do all the gameplay. And you know what? It scratched that itch. it did it incredibly well. Like, it nailed exactly what I was after. Like, here's a continuation of this mediocre, subpar story, introducing yet another character that I don't really care about, bringing back a villain that, yeah, we could see coming from a mile away, and good God, can we not advance the plot? And it was just that hokey, schlocky, turn off your brain and you know, leave it at the door and just have fun nonsense. And I kept, like, at intervals I'd be like, all right, well, I'm a half hour in, do I really want to keep watching this? And then 45 minutes later, fuck, I'm here, all right, I guess I'm committed, let me pause this and go make some waffles so I can come back and finish watching it in my fucking pajamas. But now I don't have to get the game, and I think that's, you know, maybe that's what I can do to avoid wasting money on games that I'm just gonna play through once and then put down. I don't know. But a lot of games have more meat on their bones than Devil May Cry does. When you get down to it, it's essentially the same thing over and over. You go into a room, you get locked in until you kill all the enemies, rinse and repeat, and it's just different ways of doing the same thing. So yeah, back to me wasting my time watching shows. It's just been that there's not really a whole hell of a lot that I do want to watch. Except recently a lot of stuff's popped up. Netflix has been hitting it out of the park with like Love, Death, and Robots, which I'm going to do another episode on. And then The Umbrella Academy. And Umbrella Academy did kind of pop off early for me because it was written by Gerard Way, you know, singer for My Chemical Romance, and that's their last album. The fuck is it? Fabulous Lives of Danger Days. I don't remember, but I found that one in like 2014 and played it non-stop on repeat. And you know, like any moody late teens, early 20s who found My Chemical Romance, like, yeah, you're gonna stay in the regular rotation for the rest of my life. Even if I don't wear the eyeliner and, you know, have the hair combed over my face any longer. So I was already intrigued. Like, okay, he wrote something. I like his music. Let's give this a whirl. And then we started watching it, and holy shit, it was just so remarkably good and engrossing and meaty. Like, there was a lot of substance and content there to digest. Like, each individual episode was just a smorgasbord of content. The characters were so incredibly well written and realized and fleshed out, and there's a lot of strands tying them all together and making things happen and moving the story along. And while there's a lot being loaded in as far as different subplots, it all works together and moves forward, and it's just a solid ride from start to finish, where there's not really any bit of downtime where I'm left wanting more, feeling like that something could have been cut out. It was just all so luscious and rich, and it was one of the few shows that I've refused to spoil for myself, because anytime I get remotely interested in something, I will latch onto it and consume it in its entirety. And this will be things like, you know, reading it Wikipedia and doing deep dives, you know, on the internet, as far as like researching the characters, their motives, and really consuming all that I can with it. I get obsessive about things. And this was one of those shows where, yeah, I definitely wanted to do that, but the little lady and I were like, oh no, we're going to sit down and we'll watch an episode or two a night. And it was something that I actually found myself really looking forward to. Like, oh, you know, we have time tonight, we can watch an episode, or it's the weekend, we can binge it a bit and get 2 or 3 episodes down. They're about an hour each, and I think it was 10 or 12 episodes long for the first season. And it was just so good. It's been a really long time since I've had a show like that where I'm looking forward to what's coming next. Like, the only thing that comes to mind recently would have been like Game of Thrones, when I got back into that, and then American Gods. And now American Gods is back, and we're behind like a couple weeks on that. But it was refreshing to, you know, consume a story like that. And it reminds me, I realize that the way Netflix is doing it by releasing all their content at once, it's kind of like buying a book. You have all the chapters there. It's up to you how quickly you want to read through it and consume it. Some people, they'll waste an entire day in quote-unquote waste. Time enjoyed is not time wasted. And they'll burn through it, or they'll, piecemeal it out. And it was just so good to have something to, I guess, look forward to. And the characters themselves are all, like I said, fully realized and very well developed. And they have arcs, every single one of them. There's not one that's really left kind of wanting, except maybe Ben, but even then he's dead, and we still get a lot of character development out of him through, the fuck's his name? Number 3, the one who talks to the dead. I'm so terrible with names anymore, and I hate it. Let's see here. Do some quick Googling. Umbrella. This is wonderful podcasting. Klaus, there we go. Klaus is by far the best character in the show. He carries it. And he's not the character that I would have expected to like, because, he's the guy who talks to the dead. He's a drug addict, constantly falling apart and wanting to run away from his problems. But he is ultimately what holds the family together. And in periods where there would be dead time in the show, he carries it on his back. And I've never fallen in love with a character quite the same way that I've fallen in love with him. And it's kind of the same for each of them, where they're intriguing, but they're also flawed. And I guess that's what makes them relatable, because while it is a superhero show, they all have powers. At the core of it, they're still humans with very human problems, because it's very much just this story of a dysfunctional family. They were all born to women who got pregnant mysteriously became pregnant and gave birth all within the same day. Their father went and bought as many of the babies as he could, and then he only got 7 and raised them up to be superheroes to save the world, and somewhere along the line acquired a monkey assistant and built a mother for them who was a robot, and then was just nothing but abusive to them and lied constantly, and was working to bring out their best while not necessarily nurturing their mental and emotional growth, which led to very fucked up adults who, when he died, came back and realized they had to save the world. All while, dealing with a brother who traveled to the future and then 20 years later comes back to them while assassins from his former workplace try to hunt him down, and he's trying to prevent the apocalypse. There's so much going on, and I loved it, and I'm dying to get to season 2 if and when they finally do release that, because again, it's based on a comic. We know there's a second part. And here's where I was surprised, and why I was glad I didn't spoil it for myself. After we finished the show, of course, I'm still in my obsessive phase. I want to consume all that I can and see what else there is. So I buy the first volume, which is only 6 comics. Amazon had a screaming deal on it. It was like $9. And it wasn't even worth the $9. It was, in comparison to the show, so very short and disjointed and terribly told that I am shocked and astounded they were able to make a show out of this. When you have such memorable scenes as number 5 in the diner fighting a group of assassins to the tune of Constantinople by They Might Be Giants, and there's so much character being developed into people that weren't even in the comics, like Cha-Cha and, was it Mabel? The guy. And then the donut whore. And none of that is in the comic. The comic has sets a basis up, like, oh yeah, we have the 7 characters, we have father, but the father's relationship with the children is nowhere near as abusive or harmful to them. He just seems kind of like not disinterested, but he's there not as a father figure, but he's there as a mentor. And he doesn't really talk down to them. He's very direct with them, but he doesn't put them down. He doesn't, and I guess the show is the same way, but they just really took it to the nth degree. But the kids all seem to like him, but in the comics, like, there's not much time spent in establishing the character, so when they do what they do, it doesn't make sense. Like, you know, spoilers, the entire premise is that number 7 becomes the supervillain who will destroy the world. And through the show, it's told in a very believable fashion where she's being gaslighted and manipulated by a person who's found her dead father's journal, and he wants to destroy the people that, you know, rejected him as a child. Whereas in the comics, it's like, oh yeah, here's this crazy conductor who has an orchestra, and he's like, hey, join our band so we can destroy the world. And she's like, no. And he's like, it's okay, you'll be back. She goes to talk to her family, and they're like, fuck off, number 7, we don't like you. And then all of a sudden, yeah, I'll destroy the world, sign me up. It made no sense. None at all. And in this show, we have the character of Mother, again, who's a robot that was built to take care of them. And Diego, who loves her, you know, it's his mom. In the comic, hates her with a passion and calls her just this thing and despises her. And there's just so many differences between the two. And I'm amazed at the screenwriter who was able to pull such an amazing show from such a terrible comic. The only real redeeming thing about it is the art, who, I don't remember the fella who did it. Let's see here. I don't want the show, I want the comic. Wikipedia. Gabriel Ba. But the only reason I guess I really like the artwork is that it's super reminiscent of Mike Mignola's work on, I guess, anything, but most predominantly Hellboy, which I love to pieces. And it looks very much like that. But I don't know, I was so disappointed after being so astounded and blown away by the show itself. And I have to give kudos to every single actor. Like, even Macy Gray just came out of fucking left field as Cha-Cha and was so captivating and riveting. And the kid who plays number 5, even more so. Like, here's a kid acting with a bunch of adults and just outclassing them in every way, shape, and form. To the point where it makes Ellen Page look pathetic. Like, he was so good. So yeah, I mean, it's 12 hours of commitment, but it is so worth it, especially if you have Netflix. Like, whatever show you're watching, it doesn't matter. You need to put it down and swing on over to Umbrella Academy. It's parts, you know, like, while we're watching, especially in the first few episodes where the kids are all coming back together, it really reminded me of the Royal Tenenbaums. And there's even a scene set up like, the fuck is his name? God, I'm so bad with them. Royal Tenenbaums director. Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou. Fantastic Mr. Fox. Isle of Dogs. Bail me out, Google. Who is it? Wes Anderson. There we go. Where we even have a scene set up. Like, oh yeah, here's the diorama view of the house as each one of the characters dances inside. And they're all coming together and dealing with, secret smoking and brother-sister love and Again, it's not incest because they're step siblings, or in this case, it's more like a boarding house. I can't say enough good things about it. As far as part 2, I think, you know what, the way the comic played out, I'm just gonna skip the comic and I will wait for the show, because I don't have any confidence in Gerard Way's ability to tell me a compelling story, whereas I have nothing but faith in this screenwriter. So, kudos to Netflix. Just utterly phenomenal, and I can't wait for more. But that's gonna wrap it up. If you guys want to talk about the Umbrella Academy or anything, I mean, I'm here. I sent you a podcast. Well, please respond. Drop an email over at theunwashedasses@gmail.com. Otherwise, Twitter. You guys know how to get a hold of me. Call me, please. Otherwise, help the show grow this year. Tell a friend. Let them know they can get TUA wherever they get their podcasts normally. Or otherwise, they can head over to YouTube. Shit's up there as well. And if you want to go above and beyond, pitch in $1 or $2 a month over at patreon.com/0and09. And we'll talk to you tomorrow.